That's when I remember being in the gym, in early 80s. So just fell in love with the sport, kind of just stuck with it.
What's your first recollection? Like, I know maybe people thought, "Hey, this guy's pretty good. We could do something with him." I mean, how did that hit you?
I at the time when you're doing, I mean, to me it was just boxing. I was so focused on the sport, that I wasn't really paying attention to anything else. Now that I'm older, I realize the position I was in back then. It's not until now that I kind of see some of the things and some of the traveling, some of the things that came with the sport. But at the time when you're fighting, I mean, you just, you got that mentality. You're a fighter, so you're just training, and whoever they put in front of you, you're fighting.
Now your dad was training you, right?
Yes, at the whole time. Yeah, he was my trainer my whole career. I was around other trainers. I got to spend a little bit of time in the early '90s with some great trainers. Lou Duva, George Benton, Ronnie Shields. I was in camp with De La Hoya, a bunch of different fighters. So at a young age, I was around those trainers. But my dad was always my main coach. I also got to train alongside, as a pro, I got to train alongside Tony Ayala. He helped my dad for a while. So I've had other trainers around, but my dad's always been my head coach.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How did he train you? Like your dad, how did he train you? Did he just maybe physically train you, or like mentally? Did he tell you something? To stay motivated? Or?
As a having your dad as a coach, he knows which buttons to push. And with me, it was always pushing me. Just full speed every day. You're in the gym. It was just hard work. Everything I did, everything that we did, was always 100%. And when I first started fighting, I did end up with a record of 112 and 17, 16, something like that. But my record when I first started was 0-5 as an amateur. I started five straight losses. And after that fifth one, it bothered me a little bit. And I remember my dad just saying, "Well, train harder." That was his only thing. Yeah. Train harder. I said, okay. And at a very young age, I realized that if you work hard, there's a payoff there. So learning that at a young age kind of helped me throughout the rest of my life. You just, anything you want to do, you just go for it. Just dedicate yourself, give it time, and you'll be good at it.
Yeah.
And that's been my approach with everything. I went from boxing to sitting behind the desk 9 to 5 now. So I'm behind the desk all the time.
But you're always winning, because I'm trying to get a hold of you and just, I'm busy. I mean, let's do this interview, man. Yeah, we'll do it, but I can't that time.
Well, yeah, my schedule is there was a time where I was also teaching at Palo Alto College. The professor, I was teaching boxing 101, and it was a college course. So it's always been, 8:30, 9 o'clock, my day starts, and 10 o'clock, that's when I'm leaving the gym.
Yeah.
It's in high school or in school, it was, going to school and then right after school to the gym. As an adult, it's just changed. It's not school, it's work. So,
yeah.
And it's the same schedule, every single day, So you get used to it. It's just the way it is, it's always running around, but when you do get older, you start valuing time, you value time a little more. So slowing down a little bit, trying to slow down a little bit.
Can't slow down. You got to keep it going. But as an amateur, what was your toughest fight or your toughest tournament? I know you did the 1995 World Championships, right? Mm-hmm. In Berlin. Was that pretty tough for you?
No. I got disqualified. And I'm sure there's writing somewhere about it. I got disqualified, and for the first time ever, I think USA Boxing protested on that, and it was overturned. Mm-hmm. It was overturned, and they allowed me to fight again. But there was some things during camp, some things leading up to it, with some of the coaching staff, at the time, the vice president, the president, and I decided to protest against that. And, it rubbed USA Boxing the wrong way, but I was heard,
Yeah.
So that was important to me, because of the way they were treating us, the way, just stuff that happened. And I was able to speak up after the protest. They thought I was going to fight, decided not to fight. I talked to the coach and told him why, and talked to whoever was there, so I didn't fight. So, fast forward, couple of more weeks, and I arrived here in United States, and I started getting calls from promoters. I had some calls from Dunking, Bob Arum, Cameron Duncan. These are all guys that were very big during that time.
Yeah.
So I just decided to turn pro, and that's how that ended. That's how my amateur career ended.
Yeah. So, with a disqualification.
Yeah, disqualification, but it was overturned. I mean, the referee and the judges, they weren't allowed to judge that tournament anymore.
But again, that's like that business side of boxing.
Well, it was. There's a little more to it, There was also involved. It also involved some German fighters. The silver medalists at the Olympics that year, we were able to get in a ring before the tournament, and I did fairly well against them, and a lot of USA Boxing presented it that the reason that I was disqualified was because they didn't want me to fight this guy. So, and it was overturned.
Yeah.
But like I said, I made a decision, I stuck by it, and it turned out all right.
What did your dad tell you at the time? What are you doing, mijo? Or did he? Was he there with you?
Yeah. Well, no, he wasn't there. But by that time, my parents, they've always been very supportive. Any decision that they stand by it. They support me. So I didn't have to worry about that too much. They trusted the decision I was making, and so there was never, you're grounded or anything like that.
But again, that's part of your philosophy that's been following you now from there. That philosophy that I'm not going to do this if I'm not feel comfortable with it. Right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, and that's always, I've always been that way. Sometimes you're seen a little different from the outside when you're that way, but only you know what you know, and only you know what's in there.
Right.
So you got to follow that. And anything else, you got to just ignore it. Keep going.
What is it? The Rocky says, you're going to fall down, but you got to keep on.
Yeah, you got to keep going. I mean, you don't have a choice. I mean, it's just, it's very difficult to dwell on stuff and keep it up there in the noggin. You got to move on. You got to keep going.
How did you feel in your first pro fight?
I remember being nervous. I mean, I was nervous. I mean, for all of my fights, I've always been nervous. Every fight that I've ever been in, I was always nervous. I was always scared. And that's something that boxers probably will never admit. But the fact that I experienced that, I'm able to coach better because of it. Mm-hmm. Because you see these kids that they're getting ready to fight, and you see the fight in their mind too. You start putting those gloves on, you start putting a uniform on, things change. You're about to be on stage right now, in front of everybody. You're about to get in a fight. Somebody's trying to knock your head off, So that's where the nerves come, the fear, body language changes, so I'm able to communicate with them at that time. And, I've always told every fighter, there's nothing wrong with being afraid. Nothing wrong with being scared.
Have you ever seen a fighter that you're coaching, you're training, and saying, oh, man, this guy he ain't afraid.
Yeah, I've coached a lot of fighters. And, in order to make it, you have to have that mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that has to be in your heart. That has to be who you are, because all that will show when the tough gets going. When it gets tough in there, that's when the real you comes out. You're either going to come out fighting or, you're not, So it's almost like every fighter that gets up there has to have that fight in their heart.
Like, I've heard that many times, like, some fighters freak out when they first get cut. Mm-hmm. It's like, they're pretty tough, but then when they first get cut, it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah. I suffered my first cut, I think, was my fifth fight. Fifth or sixth fight was the first time. I got a little scar there, was with a headbutt. But during the fight, as bad as it looks, when you're fighting, the least of your worries is a little cut. It's, a little busted lip, a little broken nose, you still got to fight, mm-hmm. And of course you feel different the following day, but during the battle, you just got to go.
Yeah. The adrenaline, and you're pumped up. It's like you don't feel it as much until the next day.
Yeah, the next day, or when you're getting stitches, or you're getting stitched up or something, or you're getting a cast or something. Is when you feel it.
What has been like the toughest fight you have to recover from, like that you were down for days?
I don't think I ever, trying to remember. It probably was with the cut. Mm-hmm. That was the only time that I remember having to pay attention to something. Now my my loss as a pro, that one as well. You know, I got cut inside my mouth, you know, so I had to, you know, take care of that for a while. You know, so those were the only 2 fights that I remember that because I was physically injured the following day. So it was a reminder that you were in a fight. You know, you had to care for it. But I was never in a fight or, you know, after the fight I'm on the floor.
Yeah. And your first loss, you took it pretty hard, or you just?
It's weird to say. I remember just thinking there was a lot of pressure lifted off my shoulders in a loss. You know, that's just being honest. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I lost, or nah. There's so much pressure on you. The eyes are on you. You know, you're on stage. You know, got big promoters behind you. You got investors flying out to your fight. You know, you got fighting at a casino. You know, having to perform. You know, all that stuff.